Okie doke. Second video on the DHSS model, and we've done background, talked about limits, and now we're going on to the original DHSS model. And to cut a long story short, there were 4 or 5 papers in 1974 by Dasgupta, Heel, Solow, and Stiglitz, DHSS. None of them are a particularly easy read, apart from possibly one of the Solow ones. They also build on an original article by Hoteling from the 30s, 31 I think. So what's going on? There's a lot in common between these articles. Okay, not the Hoteling one, but we'll come back to Hoteling shortly. What's going on in these models? Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Again, we've got household, firms making stuff like in the neoclassical model, but now we've added this resource input. Okay, R. So it's a neoclassical framework, but with the resource input R. We've got exogenous labor supply, L, and production is going to be a function of L, R, and K, which is the capital stock. And K depends on how much of our production Y we reinvest. And here we're just going to hold that. Just like in the Solow model, we're going to say we reinvest a fraction S of our production, and the rest we consume. Okay, and then we've got a Cobb-Douglas production function with resources added to the equation. Okay, so far so good. And interestingly, or curiously perhaps, in this original model, Dasgupta, Heel, Solow, and Stiglitz, they said, look, there's no technological progress. And the justification seemed to be that if we put in technological progress, it's sort of no fun, because it's just easy to get sustainability then. So they sort of said, well, what happens if we don't have technological progress? But we still have the capital accumulation equation. K dot is Sy minus delta K. We'll come back to that delta in a little while. Okay. Assume a social planner who releases a resource flow R which declines over time at a rate theta. So R dot over R is minus theta. Okay, solve for the growth rates on the balanced growth path. So how are we going to do that? Well, we assume there's a balanced growth path. On a balanced growth path, we must have K dot over K is constant, but K dot over K is S Y over K minus delta. So Y over K must be constant, so K dot over K equals Y dot over Y. Okay. Since we know we're on a BGP, we've assumed that. This tells us that these must be growing at equal rates. Okay, so let's go back to the production function, and from that we know, I can just write this down. You might be able to, with a bit of practice, if you need to go through the math, just do it. But look at the Cobb-Douglas production function, differentiate with respect to time. We know that AL is constant. I haven't told you anything about L. Let's just assume it's constant. Since I haven't told you, this is a tip for exams and things. If I haven't told you something's changing, just make it constant. So we've got K and R are changing, right? So we've got y dot over y is alpha times k dot over k plus beta times r dot over r. Okay, that's from the Cobb-Douglas, given that al and l are constant. But r dot over r, we've already been told, is minus theta. So, and k dot over k is y dot over y. So straight away we can say 1 minus alpha y dot over y, we've taken that over, is equal to beta times r dot over r, which is minus theta. So that's minus beta theta. Or y dot over y is minus beta theta over 1 minus alpha. It's negative. Y is gonna decline. Okay, and it makes sense because our resource stock is declining, the resource flow has to decline. If the resource flow declines, we've got no technological progress. Y is going to decline. Why can't we just build up capital to compensate for the resource flow declining, build up this? Well, it depreciates, right? So if we build up more and more capital, it'll just end up depreciating. We're wasting our time. Okay. We need some capital, but it doesn't help to try to build up huge stocks of capital to compensate for this. What can we say about the initial rate of resource consumption? I don't want to go through this right now. I guess I need to go through it at some point. But basically, if this is R and this is time, then it's declining at rate theta, right? And so this is an exponential decline in R. And this area is actually the total extraction. Maybe I should go through that. Yeah, I will go through that, but I need to pause the video to think about what to say. Okay, let's give it a go. So, how do we work out this area? For some of you this might be new. It's not a huge part of the course, okay, so don't worry too much. If this is just too hard, don't worry. Okay, but how do we work out the area under a curve? We have to integrate. So if we have some total extraction, S, over infinite time, that is the integral over infinite time from 0 to infinity of R of t dt. Okay, but what can we say about R of t? We can specify that exactly, can't we? Because R of t is R naught, the initial consumption, times e to the minus theta t. That is the same as R of t, because we have some initial extraction rate, we've called that R naught, and then it declines at rate theta. So now we've replaced R of t by that, and now we've got this integral. And the way we do integration is we look for something that can, when it's differentiated, becomes what we're trying to integrate. So we start just by writing this down. We try this. What happens when we differentiate this? We get minus theta times what we started with. But we want just this, so we need minus 1 over theta times that. When we differentiate that, we get back to this. And then we put the limits in, 0 and infinity, and we put this one in, and just work out what we've got. E to the minus infinity is 0, so that drops away, minus what we get when we put this one in. E to the 0 is 1, minus that, so we get R naught over theta. So total extraction over infinite time is R naught over theta. So if we're going to use up our total stock S exactly over infinite time, then the bigger R naught is, the bigger theta is. Makes total sense, right? If we start with very high extraction, we need it to decline much more steeply for the area to be the same. Okay, so that's that. Like I said, if you can't do integration, don't worry. Okay, that's the only real time I think in the whole course we do any integration. Okay, right. Now, hoteling. Assume perfect markets and symmetric equilibrium. What can we say about the resource price? Let's call the resource price WR. We can say, and I'm going to go straight to the answer, that WR dot over WR is equal to rho, where rho is the interest rate. So that is Greek letter rho. What is going on here? The resource price has to increase at the interest rate. Why is that? Well, to understand that, you need to put yourself in the place of a resource owner. And you're in a competitive market, okay, and you've got a lump of resource, and you're thinking, when do I sell this? If you see the resource price rising faster than the interest rate, then you think, I want to hang on to this resource and sell it later. Okay? Because when you sell it, you can put the money into the bank and then the money will grow at the interest rate. Okay? But if you keep it, its value is growing faster than the interest rate, faster than the value of the money in the bank. Okay? But if you see the price growing more slowly than the interest rate, then you want to shift your resources, turn them into money, put the money into the bank. Everyone's going to think the same. So if that price is going up very fast, nobody is going to want to sell. That can't be an equilibrium with nobody selling. If the price is going up very slowly, everybody wants to sell. That can't be an equilibrium. Then the market is going to be flooded with the resource. The only possible equilibrium is when the price is growing at the interest rate. Okay. I'm wondering about whether I should say more. I think we'll leave it there. Okay. Solve for the balanced growth path in the market economy given that the interest rate is equal to the pure rate of time preference. I'm thinking this video might have gone on for a while. I think, no, I'm going to do this. Okay. So, how do we do it? Well, we're told there's a balanced growth path. So, k dot over k must be constant. Right, we've already done that, haven't we? Let me try and find my note. I'm going to pause this again, sorry. Okay, so we've already got that y dot over y is minus beta theta over 1 minus alpha. Okay, but I'm going to put that to one side. And then I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say that we know, because of hoteling, that WR dot over WR is rho. But how does that help us? We haven't talked at all about the price of the resource. We need to set up the profit maximization problem of one of these competitive producers. Remember, in all these models, there's like perfect competition in all these sectors, right? So we can think of the profits of a producer whose revenue is Y, or PYY, but PY is normalized to 1, minus costs, which are like the wage times labor and the cost of capital times capital. But for us, the interesting bit is the price of the resource times the resource. And if this guy is profit maximizing, we know that at the optimal choice of R, this holds. And what's dy dr? Differentiating like an economist, it is beta y over R minus WR. Okay? I hope you're all okay with that. If not, slow down, work through it. Okay? Right. So, what does this tell us? It tells us that beta y equals WRR. Now, we differentiate through with respect to time, and we get beta dot over beta plus y dot over y equals WR dot over WR plus R dot over R. Beta is just a constant, so that tells us that y dot over y is WR dot over WR plus R dot over R. But we know y dot over y, that's minus beta theta over 1 minus alpha. We know WR dot over WR, that's just rho. And we know R dot over R is just minus theta. So now we've got an equation in things we know, beta, alpha, and rho, and the thing we don't know, theta. So if we bring this over, we end up with theta times, let me see, bring that over here, right, yeah, 1 minus beta over 1 minus alpha equals rho. And this is the same as 1 minus alpha minus beta over 1 minus alpha, if we can do it like that, minus alpha. 1 minus alpha minus beta over 1 minus alpha times theta. Theta is rho times 1 minus alpha over 1 minus alpha minus beta. So we can work out in a market where we know the interest rate because it's just equal to the pure rate of time preference, then we know that resource extraction has to decline at that rate, and that will also gives us R naught, of course, because from the equation we worked out earlier, which I lost track of, but never mind. Okay, and of course we can put this theta, this thing, back into y to say that y dot over y is, let me see, minus beta theta over 1 minus alpha. So it's rho beta over 1 minus alpha, so that goes out. Okay, so beta and alpha are just the importance of these inputs in the Cobb-Douglas function, and rho is the discount rate. So this is telling us if we have a high discount rate, and I should have had a minus sign here, the higher the discount rate, the faster GDP declines, because we're more impatient, we're extracting, we have a high initial extraction leading to a rapid decline in GDP. Okay, that's enough for this video.